Who are the best coaches and why?
Coaching is two things, connection and content. And if you got both, you can make magic. I could talk to them about 1-2s, up back and throughs and round the corners, underlaps and overlaps. Like, you can't tell me that Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho coach the same way.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Coaching Session. I'm delighted to be joined by Darius Charles. Darius, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Caulker, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure for us to have you on here. So for those of you who don't know Darius has played for Stevenage, Ebbsfleet, Brentford, AFC Wimbledon, Wycombe Wanderers. Any other teams I've missed on there?
I mean, there's a long list if you're going down the loan route. So those are the key ones, yeah.
Well, okay, we've covered it for now. So 397 professional games as a player. You're now working as a coach. I want to take you back a little bit, and I want to ask you, as a player, at what point did you realize you wanted to be a coach?
Now, you know what's funny, Corks? I've never had any intention of becoming a coach ever. It just never seemed like something I'd be interested in doing. And it wasn't until my last kind of official year of playing at Wimbledon, when I signed for them, the contract was like next to no money at all. So they were like, look, we'll put you on your UEFA B as well, kind of just to bump up the deal. And that was really like when my passion for coaching, came alive.
How did you find your UEFA B license?
I absolutely loved my B. I absolutely loved the B. I think because it was a lot about, so first and foremost, obviously, how to put on a session, like how to design and put on a session. And then after that, it was a lot around exploration. It wasn't about like right or wrong. It was about why. Like, can you explain your logic? If you can explain your logic, then fair enough. But we're really going to question your logic to help you formulate kind of your opinion and views on why you've done what you did.
So we've spent obviously time together doing the UEFA A license as well. How do you feel it compared? How much deeper, how much harder was your A license compared to your B license?
I actually think the A is easier. The A came across as there's only one way. Even if I'm being really, really ignorant, like, you can't tell me that Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho, who are two like hugely successful managers, like coach the same way or have the same footballing philosophy. So therefore, there can't be one way. And this is just my opinion, obviously, but that's how I felt while I was on the A. And really and truly, it was a case of kind of aligning my thoughts on things with kind of what the course needed for me to pass it. So I guess to summarize, it is easier once you understand what's being asked of you.
Thinking back to when you were a player and you had coaches out on the grass, who were the best coaches and why? Was it what they did on the grass, or was it what they did after the sessions, before the sessions, how they made you feel? What was it for you that made coaches the best that you worked with?
I think it's two things. And I remember seeing this quote that like really stuck with me. And it's like, it goes something like, coaching is two things, connection and content. And if you got both, you can make magic. The best coach I had, I would say, is Gareth Ainsworth. Now, for those that have played under him or played against his teams, like, like when it comes to details around technique and tactics, so on and so forth, like, that's not necessarily his area of expertise. And I'm doing him a disservice here. What he's exceptional at is like his man management skills, is his ability to create connection with his players. And because of that, like, you lean on every word that he says. He also has a great assistant in Richard Dobson. But ultimately, like, without those two things, I don't think you can be considered a good coach.
How would you describe yourself as a coach? Have you been influenced by the likes of Gareth Ainsworth? Are you a people person? Today you're working in at Chelsea Academy. You've been previously working at Fulham as well. How was your relationship with the youngsters? Because that's different to a first team environment.
Yeah, for me, it's different because it's first team, but it's the same. So yes, the language you use, the way you communicate, like the way you use your voice is super, super important, because they haven't had the experiences, they don't comprehend or understand the context as well as you will as an adult. That being said, like, building connections with people for me is the most important thing. And yeah, I'm very much a people person first, and then my coaching comes second. And I found that being really simple, being really concise and clear with my messaging has been really, really helpful. And then there are players who are more intelligent, who, you know, are more nuanced and see the game in different ways, who need more information provided. But essentially, like, when you're talking to a group, you need to be able to make your messages short, concise, snappy, and to the point.
So during your time at Fulham and as I said, now at Chelsea, can you spot talent a mile off? Can you look at some players and go, this player here is gonna be going to the top? As easy as people think to identify top talents at that age?
To identify top talent, yes. To say they'll make it to the top, as you know, is, I don't want to say it's impossible. What I will say is, like, those players are like once in a generation. Outside of that, you're kind of just looking at, okay, what's the, you know, if you use the FA4 corner model, you're looking at it going, technically, what do they look like? Physically, how do they move? Tactically, like, what's their footballing intelligence and game knowledge, game understanding like? And then socially and psychologically, you know, how do they deal with, you know, maybe missing a penalty or misplacing a pass or scoring an own goal? Like, how do they deal mentally and emotionally with the game, the environment, and everything it chucks up? So you can look at those players and go, yeah, they've got a really good chance. You are simply saying, like, they're high potential, and given, you know, if we can help create a path for them, they've got a really, really good chance if they stay on it.
So with the pathway, because I mean the statistics are extremely low, right? So I think, if off memory, they're as low as 0.012% of young players in the UK actually go on to play in the Premier League, right? So the statistics are really, really low. Do you feel, you know, and we're generalising here, not just at Fulham or Chelsea, academies in general in the UK, do you feel we're preparing them well enough for what's next?
I think we're looking at it the wrong way. I think we need to flip it round and go, what are we providing for these kids, as opposed to what are they not getting? And what I mean by that is this, is that if you're at a Real Madrid, a PSG, a Bayern Munich, anyone that's there is being prepared to play in that environment, which means that you aren't going to have access to the type of training or games that would allow you to play non-league football. Like, why would we be doing that? Why would we bring you in but prepare you for non-league football? Now we're making your chances of playing, you know, at the highest level, like, even smaller than they currently are. Does that mean that they're not necessarily getting a well-rounded education? Yes. That being said, you're more likely to land somewhere else because of your technical ability, because of your physical capabilities, because of your tactical intelligence and game understanding, and because you're used to playing or being in an environment that is high pressured, that you should, in theory, actually be able to manage a lot of what happens at the lower levels better, albeit it is a completely different environment, and there will be things that you will have to get used to learning very quickly if you're going to have a career outside of a Premier League or even just a league football club.
Okay, so after finishing your playing career, you then had 2 years before you went and joined Fulham under 15s or under 16s. How did you get that job, and what were you doing in the middle part of that transition?
2 years in between retiring and getting a job at Fulham, I was a senior house parent at Man City, which is obviously far left from being a professional football player. But I was also a great opportunity to experience or be around what young, talented athletes are experiencing currently in society today. Towards the end of my time there, I saw that there was this scheme called PPCS, Professional Player to Coaching Scheme. And it was basically a scheme that it was an initiative to get players from minority backgrounds into coaching, but not just get them into coaching, like upskill them to be like top coaches. So I saw that advertised, and essentially clubs have to apply to be on it because one, they get funding, and two, there is like a long academic process that the people on the scheme have to abide by. So today, I've done 2 projects, umpteen amount of presentations, a multitude of courses around like my coaching craft, game day, session design, dealing with challenging conversations, so on and so forth. So each club kind of puts out the application for the role that they have available. Fulham is close to home. It's a coaching job, and at the time, obviously, I'm in Manchester, so I'm like 4 hours away from home and working there Monday to Friday. So I saw that role, and once I saw that role, like I just knew it was the role for me at the right time. It was the right role at the right time, and my son had been there previously up until the age of under 12s. So I knew people in the building and like was familiar with how they worked. So yeah, that opportunity came about, and I snapped it up with both hands.
So how do you best tailor your sessions to fit, whether it be under 15, under 16, whether it be during your time as a caretaker manager? How do you tailor each session to suit the age group that you're working with?
So for example, like let's say it's, I'm caretaker manager. So the manager's just been sacked. The mood's low. We're losing games. It's like, do I need to come in and do a really high level detailed session? Probably not, because everyone is in different places. What I probably need to do is do a session that gets the group upbeat, has minimal information or detail involved in it, and is more about the social and psychological aspect of the group as opposed to the technical, tactical, physical side. But the session itself will have a lot of the things I want to get out of it implicitly. And I don't know if you remember this from our time on the A, where Warren would say, like, the practice should do the heavy lifting. And essentially, that is like fundamentally the key to everything. If the practice design is spot on, then more often than not, like, I don't even have to say anything. And then I'm just adding little bits of nuance and information. So let's say I'm working with an under-9s group and we're outside and it's wet and windy. First of all, 9-year-olds have the attention span of a goldfish. So me making my interventions a minute or 2 or 3 is just like pointless. So if I'm doing a session, I want to make sure the dimensions are really, really tight, because I want them to have an opportunity of getting close to the ball, because that encourages them to continue to move. Continuing to have them move means that they're going to get warm. They're going to stay warm. There will probably be next to no interventions in the session, because, again, what detail will I be providing and how does that affect and disrupt the session? And then equally, because they're kids and kids love to please, I don't want to give them the answers. I want to ask like really good thought-provoking questions and have them answer those questions. If you ask a group of 16-year-olds a question, they're all like, there's one guy in the group that always speaks up. The rest of them are too cool to answer. 9-year-olds, like, they're screaming at you, shouting out the answers, like, and it's brilliant because I now know that they're engaged in the session and that they really want to please, and I can hear what their level of understanding is. Oh, we want this. And if it's not quite right, just keep asking the questions, keep prompting them, keep like leading them if needs be. Because once it comes out, great, go on boys, go on girls. Can I see more 1-2s or you get an extra goal if you score via a 1-2. So I don't have to go through the technical aspect of you should be using this part of your foot or that part of your foot. Today is about getting them to understand how to create success. So go for it. Go and get it wrong 1,000,001 times. And the session that we do inside, when it's nice and warm, we can work on technique so that when we do go back to that session, they, one, know like what a 1-2 is and how it can create success for them. And then two, they also have the technique to execute, which will encourage them to do it more. So I said I'd give you the short version. It was a long, short version, but it's kind of like what goes on in this busy brain of mine to get to designing a practice.
Darius, talk us through a session.
Yeah, so this was just to create the tack session, and it's interesting, like the importance of the coach that you work with and co-coaching in general. So the coach I was working with at the time, Gabriel Flores, phenomenal coach, is very big on making it as realistic as possible, which is obviously, one of the coaching principles, one of the 3 R's: repetition, relevance, and realism. And you'll always lose a bit of one of those 3 things depending on what you're doing, but where possible, like making it as real as you humanly can. So like working towards a big goal, because ultimately players want to work towards a big goal. They want to be able to shoot and score. So why would we limit their opportunities to do it, in any session? So it is a create the attack session. The focus is on their ability to get into the final third, but they also have the added advantage of like they can just get shots away once they get in there. So the key principles for this for me were covering the 5 lanes, making sure there was height, width, and depth, and switches of play. The sub-principles, which I only go into if the players are doing kind of the first part well, because it's extra added detail to help improve the quality of what we're currently doing. So if they show a good understanding of covering all 5 lanes, having height, width, and depth, and switching the play well, then we talk about ball speed, when to slow it down, when to speed it up. Quick connections. So in tight areas, making sure we're close so we can make quicker connections to get the ball out the other side or find space. And then making late and fast runs. So making sure we're not arriving in spaces too early or too late. And when we arrive in space, we arrive there at speed to give the opposition like the least possible chance of winning the ball back from us, and making sure that we can arrive in as much space as possible.
Which players out of the squad will enjoy this session, and what other players might find this session a little bit challenging?
Oh man, that's honestly such a good question, and something that I guess when we were playing, I don't know if coaches were too concerned about, but as you know now, like it's really important that we engage every player, or as many as we possibly can, while also making sure that it's not at the expense of what it is we're trying to get out of the session. But for this session in particular, I would pretty much say everyone would generally enjoy it. The ones that might enjoy it less are the ones, for example, as I mentioned before, who might not necessarily be playing in their position for the session. So we've got a winger who's playing fullback. Listen, it's not too dissimilar to their natural position, but they will be asked to do more defending in a different area than they would. And when they receive the ball, they're receiving the ball deeper than they naturally would.
Could this session work with an increase or decrease of numbers?
Yeah. So if there was an increase in numbers, it would simply be a case of making the dimensions bigger, like in my mind. If there was a decrease, you're then making the dimensions smaller, and then I would probably just work towards one goal. Give the team defending the big goal an opportunity to flip the game round. So you could either use a time to say, listen, like, imagine you're winning 1-0 There's 4 minutes left. Your job is to defend your goal. Every time you win it, you find a mini goal. Every time you find it, we knock 10 seconds off. Because then it gives the team defending, even though they're wingers and attackers and midfielders, it gives them something to get after. And if they stay engaged in the session, it makes the level of challenge for the opposition harder. And essentially that's what we want. So even if you're working with a group that's just full of attacking players, like, you can still do things to encourage them to engage with the session itself, to make sure that we're at the level we need to be to get out of the session what it is we want.
I completely agree. I'm a big fan of giving both teams objectives, both teams something to work towards. I do believe that it does keep the players engaged, and it also just increases the level of competition, which makes for a better, higher tempo session. What age group would you recommend this session for? Do you believe it applies for all age groups?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of coaching, right? It's not the session itself. If skilled enough, not saying I am by any stretch of imagination, by the way, but if you are skilled enough, again, you can put this session on, and it looks different for different kids. So this was with an under 15s group. So I can talk to them about, quick connections and ball speed. I can talk to them about blindside runs. I can talk to them about, I can talk to them about 1-2s, up back and throughs, and round the corners, underlaps and overlaps, because they have the tactical awareness and the technical ability. If I was working with, again, going back to an under 9s group, it might be a case of, instead of it being mannequins, because you can imagine somehow they will hit the mannequin every time. It's just a line. Maybe it's just a line of flat discs, so that they can continuously access the other half. And the stipulations that I put on it for the under 15s group is that you can't, to access the attacking half, the ball and the run you make have to be through different gates. So I might not make that a stipulation for a younger age group, because now I'm giving them too many things to think about, when in actual fact, all I'm really looking for is the timing of the run and the detail of the pass.
Do you believe this session is universal? Do you believe that anyone can use it in any environment? Or do you believe it's specific for certain clubs and certain styles of play, certain identities? Would you say this drill is specific for certain players?
What I would say is this, is that the constraints determine what it becomes. So, for example, my constraints here are 3 touch in your defending half and all in your attacking half. The reason I want it to be 3 touch in the defensive half is because, really and truly, I want front boys to have the ball. I don't want my defenders to be taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 touches. I want that ball to get into the front players as quick as possible. That being said, I don't want them hoofing it. So one of the other constraints is that the ball has to be below head height. So I'm actually taking away an opportunity for you to play over. Not because I don't feel like there's a place for it, because there absolutely is. I just don't want it to be the go-to. I want my team to be able to find ways to keep the ball on the floor and progress it with comfort and speed. If we go back to the phrase of practice should do the heavy lifting, that will determine what the boys will do to create success consistently. So that's what you're priming them to do, essentially.
One final question. What day of the week would you recommend this session? As it sounds quite intense. So if you've got the game on a Saturday, which day of the week would you look to put a session like this on?
I mean, ultimately, mate, it could be any day of the week, and it just depends on the time. So it might be, if it's a Friday and I really wanted to do this just because there was bits I wanted to get out, I might just do 3-4 minutes, or I might do 6 2-minute blocks, just because I want them to have a little blast, but I don't want them to be tired. I make the dimensions smaller. But if it's on a Tuesday, we're talking big distances, like maximum 6-minute blocks, 6-minute blocks. So they're covering bigger distances for longer periods of time. Generally speaking, I'm like, for me, this is like a Tuesday and a Thursday session, and it looks different in both. Sessions like this kind of underpin like a key principle of any team that I want to be working with, and the way in which they work and go about like trying to win games.
Darius, thanks so much for the insight you shared today. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Caulker. Really appreciate your time, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.